this over here is the contract for my new full-time job. So now that I'm transforming back from a full-time musician into a hobbyist, I want to talk a little bit about the differences. So I've been making music for a very long time. It's actually crawling up to 13 years now. And for the longest time, I was obviously a hobbyist. But for the last, I would say 2.5 years, I've been doing it as my full-time job. And while this was an amazing period in my life, over the last half year, it has become really clear that this path is no longer sustainable in the modern economy. I've talked about this in another video recently, so I'm not going to dive too much into it, but I just noticed my income slowly stagnating and even going backwards ever since say last year, October. And as you can imagine, there's just one currency that my landlord accepts and that the grocery store accepts, and that is money. And that means that I need to make money in order to survive, just like everybody else. And therefore I have to scale back what I'm doing online and actually find a job to just survive off of. And then I'm gonna have the music on the side. Now, I always wanted to do a video about this topic because for some people it is really unclear that once you turn your hobby into your business, it is no longer your hobby. And I felt that one of the consequences of doing this for the money is that you just think about music in a whole different way. Of course, I have the whole side of the content thing that I'm doing, and I have the whole product making thing that I'm doing just to make sure that I'm making enough money to survive, and that is something that I no longer necessarily have to do. I'm still going to do this. I'm still working on some amazing products because I just like to do it that as well. But I don't have to be so hyper-focused on just the money-making aspect of my music. And I hope that because I'm not doing that, because I'm not focused on the money, I can spend more time just worrying about the actual music. Because one of the things that you may not know is that I don't actually produce a lot of music. I think that I produce, actually sitting in the DAW working on music itself, I produce less music than the average hobbyist, I think. Because music is my business, there's always more business-related stuff that I can do with music that I also find interesting. So I tend to focus much more on the business element and just worrying about, okay, making extra videos, making extra content, working on products, working on finding students, working on promoting different services, working on all those kind of things that I need to do to actually keep the business running. And that's something that I no longer have to do now. So it is about a week before I actually get started. My starting date is May 5th. I don't know when this video is going to come up because, as you can imagine, I'm kind of recording stuff in advance and just preparing for the actual transition moment so that I can cleanly transition, then see how much time I have left, what I can do, what I cannot do, and then spend that other time that I do have left focusing on the things that I actually like and the things that I actually want to do. And of course, I want to cause the least amount of disturbance to you guys. Instead, what I want to try to do is just slowly downscale my content, slowly downscale the actual things that I'm doing, because I'm just going to have 40 hours less time to worry about the actual music side of things, and there's still just music that I want to make. I still want to continue doing certain things, but there are just other things that I'm no longer going to be able to do. One of the main things that I'll probably immediately stop with is the shorts, because I don't actually like recording and editing shorts. It's a very tedious and repetitive process because I record 20 of them at once. As you can imagine, having a schedule of keeping it up every day, posting a short every day, is a little bit tiring. And towards the end, I really only did it because if I wasn't uploading a short every day, the graph would go down in my views and that would make me feel sad. But I've noticed that ever since I landed this job, I have just completely stopped caring. I used to have the YouTube analytics always open on one of my monitors, and now I just sometimes check, maybe once a day I check it. It is still something that I am interested in, of course, and I still want to succeed in that, but I'm not as hyper-focused on it as I used to be. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to keep this as a hobby, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on it. I'm still going to spend every moment that I can working on music and working on music-related stuff, and also the content creation in general. I really like making these longer-form content, these longer-form videos. That is really the stuff that I enjoy the most. Even if also there the editing is not something that I really enjoy. What I've also done is I've taken some time to actually make some other changes in my life as well. I've stopped smoking, I have spent a little bit more time in the last... This started a little bit earlier, but say in the last few weeks I've spent more time actually cooking a little bit better and just spending a little bit more time on the food that I eat. Another thing that is going to enhance my life is that there is a gym on the way to my work. So what that probably is going to mean is that I'm going to pick up a gym membership again. I've gone to the gym. This was now a long time ago. I would say that this was even before the pandemic when I used to go to the gym, but I would go for a good couple of years. I believe I went for 2 years. And I would really make a point of going 3 to 4 times a week to the gym to actually work out and do stuff. Even though I've never been the most active of people in terms of sporting, I've also recently picked up inline skating again. And this was specifically to train for a 100-kilometer ice skating tour. I say tour, I don't really want to call it a race because it wasn't really competitive. It's just spending a day on the ice and having fun. But your time was measured and I did have a really decent time for that. So I'm just trying to get more active and, trying to focus a little bit more on myself as I'm going through this, and hoping that by doing so that this is not just a transition in the kind of work that I do and the kind of day-to-day activities that I have, but also in the ways that I'm feeling around it and, just becoming a little bit more healthier while I'm transitioning into another job as well. So really, this is a little bit more of an update video of my life than an actual comparison between being a hobbyist and being a professional in the music industry and what that actually means. But I think you can kind of get it from just the sentence that when you're doing music as a business, it is no longer your hobby, and therefore you have to make almost every decision with a business mind. You have to think about, okay, when I spend my time developing a product or writing a track, what is going to make me the most money? And it's most likely going to be the products, because music just simply doesn't pay. I mean, like I've discovered now, making products also doesn't pay enough, but at least it pays something, and music really just pays nothing. To give you a little bit of an idea of the discrepancy, I would say that, roughly speaking, over the last year, in terms of sales for products, I would make just under $1,000 a month on products. And in my entire 12 years of producing music, I've made less than $100 of just music, of just, say, like streams and sales and ad revenue on YouTube videos featuring my music and that kind of stuff. It has been less than $100. Now, of course, one big thing that I've never really done where a lot of money is going to be performing. And one of the reasons why I didn't perform is because I wasn't comfortable DJing on the gear that they have in clubs and whatnot. And the reason why I wasn't comfortable is because the only gear that I had was a very small console that was just completely different. It doesn't use Rekordbox. It isn't a standalone system. If you have the waveforms, you can just have the waveforms lined up and you can easily beats match by just looking at a couple of lines and seeing if the lines are actually on the same side or if the lines need to be changed. And I wasn't actually learning how to properly DJ on a professional system, which is something that I wanted to do. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to actually use this job to buy myself a professional system so that I can learn how to do professional DJing, so that it can hopefully transform into the future back again into a full-time job. The other thing that you have to consider is that when you are a business, you are operating within a market. And right now I've noticed that the market for selling music-related products is really, really bad. I can tell that a lot of people are struggling with money nowadays. And that means that the very first thing that they're going to cut out of their life in terms of spending is probably going to be their hobby, because it isn't a necessity, it's just entertainment. So that is the very first thing that they're going to cut out of their life. And therefore, that means that I'm just not going to sell as many products as I used to do. Like when everybody was at home and everybody had like a lot of money and they were saving a lot of money because of the COVID, or they had a little bit of money left because they had saved up during COVID, and in the years after they still had a little bit of money, people could afford to spend a little bit more on their hobby. And that is something that I noticed. Like as I've said, I've gradually seen just the amount of sales that I was doing and the amount of views that I was getting on my product pages just go down over time. And while I'm recording this, I'm actually running a sale. And in my analytics, I can see that the views are going up because, of course, I'm promoting my shop more, but the sales are staying the same. I'm not actually selling more products. I'm just selling products at a discount right now. Of course, I'm still technically selling more product because I have a sale on. There are people that are currently buying my products because I have a sale on that otherwise wouldn't have bought my products. But it also means that usually a sale would net me a couple of $1,000 extra, right? And now I make $100 extra, $200 extra. I'm roughly halfway through, but it's looking like I'm like in the analytics, I cannot actually see that there's more sales because of the sale that I'm running. I know that I am because I know how a sale works, and I know that that attracts people and people actually buy stuff because a sale is on. But I can also tell that a lot of people just don't have the money to spend on their hobby right now. And as a business, you then have to start thinking, okay, what do? Do I diversify? Do I see if I can find another promotion strategy? Do I see if I can go into another market? What are my options here? And for me, the best option was keep the business maybe for a couple of years, maybe for a couple of months. Who knows how long it's going to take for people to recover, for people to have a little bit more money to spend on this kind of stuff again, and for me to change around the business so that it becomes profitable enough again, so that I can live off it full time again. However long it takes, I'm now going to put the business on the back burner, just leave it a little bit more dormant, but of course still making the videos and the main things that I like doing while still keeping doing that, but still having a steady income that I can then use to maybe invest a little bit here and there into the business to make it a little bit better, to make sure that it becomes maybe a little bit more efficient. Whatever I can do to make sure that the business adapts to the new markets, that is what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's a little bit of an insight on my life, where things are going, as well as how you run a music business versus just doing it as a hobby. If there are any questions that you have in this regard or any other topics that you want me to cover, make sure that you leave a comment down below. And while you're there, make sure that you like the video and that you're subscribed to the channel. Another way to support me, even though I don't do this full-time anymore, Patreon page or becoming a Twitch subscriber. There's a lot of different benefits, including early access to videos, discount codes for my products, and priority in feedback streams. So thank you if you do that, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.